may be wondering how I got here. Well, I'm half Puerto Rican, and the cry of my ancestors calls to me every November to do this. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marta, and I am the chef and author of Sense and Edibility, a site where I teach you everything I know about cooking, baking, and cocktail making. This is the first episode of a series called How to Make Pasteles Puertorriqueños, or How to Make Puerto Rican Pasteles. Everything you see before you was made by me, by myself, over the span of a couple of days. What I want to do is I want to show you that it is possible for you to make pasteles by yourself if you want to, or to begin early enough in the year so that when you have a pasteles making party, which a lot of us do this time of year, you're all set to go. I'm going to show you everything from how to shop for your pasteles ingredients, how to make the masa for your pasteles, and we have masa de guineo and masa de yuca, so you can have a variety, how to make the fillings, even vegan fillings for your pasteles. If you want to soften or flavor your pasteles, how to make caldo de jamón or ham stock, how to make the achote oil, which gives our masa flavor and also adds some kind of lubrication to the banana leaves that I'm going to show you how to prepare to wrap your pasteles in, and even add-ins to make your pasteles unique to you. But before we get into all of this, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that you can be notified every time I post a new video, like this one. In this first episode, I want to show you how to shop for the ingredients that you're going to need to make your pasteles. But before we do that, I do want to give you kind of a background on what pasteles are, why they are such a tradition amongst Puerto Ricans, and what they mean to me personally. I am half Black and half Puerto Rican, very proud of both of my cultures. I actually feel like both of my cultures marry each other very well because they have so many similarities. The Puerto Rican people are comprised of three different cultures, and those are the indigenous Taino Indians from the Arawak family, Spanish colonizers, and enslaved Africans, and also freed Africans that came to the island. Pasteles are a true amalgamation of all three of those cultures. When you look at the process of steaming pasteles using masa like yuca, which was one of the main staples in the Taínos' diet, and steaming them in banana leaves, that is a very indigenous way of cooking. The salsa that we cook the meat that fills our pasteles in is a very Spanish way of cooking. The Spanish, of course, discovered tomatoes when they were colonizing the New World and brought them back to Spain and started cooking in tomato-based sauces, which we still see now in their cuisine. And then just the other types of vegetables, viandas, the bananas, yautillas, the ñames, whatever you use to make your masa de guineo is very African in origin. This recipe, along with being something that I'm very fond of because it reminds me of home, it reminds me of my family, it reminds me of the holidays, it's endearing to me because it represents my culture as a Puerto Rican woman. Many people, myself included, have been separated from our families for whatever reason. My reason was the military and marrying a soldier. And we have had to make do or create our own surrogate families. Some of us have had to learn and make pasteles all by our lonesome, which is a task, but it's doable. And some of us have cultivated and crafted surrogate families who we get together with and have pasteles making parties, and coquitos involved, music's involved, sometimes arguments are involved, but whatever. And it's just a very wholesome time for many Puertorriqueños, and I want you to be a part of that. If you are among those people who are separated from your family and you don't have a community of Puerto Ricans surrounding you, I want you to know that you can start your own tradition with your friends that may not be Puerto Rican, or your family, your immediate family that live with you, and you can do your own pasteles. And I want to show you that it is possible to do it by yourself. I know, because I've done it plenty of times. So for now, let's get into how to shop for what you need to make pasteles. Okay, so welcome to my local Latin market, Las Americas Latin Market. This is located at 6623 San Pedro Avenue in San Antonio, Texas. Our first ingredient is calabaza or cabocha squash. Calabaza translates to pumpkin, but this is not a regular pumpkin. If you only have access to pumpkin, you can use it as a substitute, but this is calabaza or cabocha squash, which they do sell in most grocery stores. You don't really need a huge piece, but you do want to make sure the piece you get is very orange because it adds color to your masa. So I like these two. Yeah. Dropping it is fun, but yeah, I like these two, so these are the two that I'm going to get. And moving on, for the most important part of your masa, you need guineos verde, which are ungassed Cavendish bananas. So these are what you would get in the grocery store to make your banana bread, but they're not gassed, and that's why they stay green a lot longer than what you would get in the grocery store. Each bunch is also called a hand. Most of the time it comes with 6 guineos or bananas per hand or per bunch. Again, depending on how many pasteles you want to end up making, you would double or triple the amount of guineos that you get. So I'm going to make a lot of masa, so I'm going to get 3 or 4 bunches or hands of guineos. You want to make sure that when you're picking your guineos that they're very green. The greener they are, the less sweet they are, and you definitely don't want sweet masa for your pasteles. I'm not really as thrilled with this yellow part, but I'm going to deal with it because I'm going to make this masa very soon. This one is great. Well, kind of not really because it's pale here. Don't be afraid to ask your grocer if they have greener guineos. They're used to me digging through this, so. And you do want to try to get a hand with 6 bananas or guineos on it because then it makes it more efficient. And one more, and that, let me grab, that only has 4. Ugh. That only has 5. What is going on, people? Okay, I'm gonna take this one. Yeah. Okay, so we have our guineos, and we need to get our yautía and batata, which is kind of like a twist. Batata makes the masa tender, so that's why I use it. And we'll get into the yuca later once we head over to that section. So if you plan to make masa de yuca, we'll talk about that in a second. So the next ingredient that I choose is yautía. Yautía is kind of like taro root. You have yautía lila, which is white, or yautía, actually yautía lila is purple, and yautía blanca, which is white. It doesn't matter which you pick. Just make sure you pick those that are nice and thick because these are very slippery and you don't want to deal with really tiny ones. If the only ones you have access to are the tiny ones, get that, but it's better if you have nice sized ones. So I'm only going to get 2 for this recipe. Obviously, the more pasteles you want to make, the more yautía you're going to get. My last, wild card in my masa is batata or boniato. These are sweet potatoes, white sweet potatoes, but they're not as sweet as the orange Beauregard sweet potatoes. This is the way I was taught to make it by my grandmother-in-law. She always added a little papa or potato or batata to make the masa a little softer. So I tried to get batata that's not as bumpy. This is going to make it hard to peel, so I try to avoid these. These are going to be, yeah, these are going to make me work. Yeah, I don't want that one. These are the two that I'm going to get. You don't need a lot of boniato or batata to add to your masa because you don't want it too soft or it's going to fall apart. So, okay, that's the end of the vianda that you need to make your masa. Okay. Now, if you're making masa de yuca or yuca pasteles, then you're going to need, I usually use or pick about 3 big ones, but these look kind of crazy. What you want to do is find yuca that is very straight. If they have a lot of bumps, then it's going to make it hard to peel. So you want ones that are thick and as straight as possible, like this one. This is a great piece of yuca to use for your masa de yuca. Depending on how many pasteles de yuca you want to make, then you're going to need, I usually use 3 big ones, but they only have 2 big ones that are decent and nice and straight. Because remember, we want yuca that's straight because it makes it easier to cut. And I'm getting this one. So this is going to make, these 2 together are going to make about 12 pasteles. That's all you need. If you can find long ones that are nice and straight, get those. If not, just supplement by getting small ones. Yeah, so that's pretty much what you're going to need for pasteles de yuca. Just get what you can. Make sure they're straight. If you don't feel like making your adobo from scratch, which I have a recipe for on the site, you can always buy your adobo pre-made in the bottle. In addition to adobo for seasoning your meat filling, this one wants to come home with me, sazon. I use sazon con culantro y achote. So that's coriander, that's recao, and anato, which is anato in English. Yeah. What else do I need? I also need peppers. These are whole roasted peppers that I usually slice and add to my pasteles. It just gives them, a little something extra. Okay, so this is what we need. We also need more stuff, so let's keep going around the store. The only type of anato or achote that they have is this brand, which I hate. But I need it, so I'm gonna get it because we need to make achote oil or whatever to color our masa. Know that I'm doing this begrudgingly. I hate this brand, so it is what it is. Okay, wrapping the pasteles is usually done in parchment paper, and if you come to a Latin market like this one, you're basically buying it by the pound, right? You don't buy it by the box. So just grab however much. I use this a lot in baking or whatever. So I grab a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick portions, and what they're going to do is weigh it and tell me how much it costs. In addition to this, you also need hilo or twine for wrapping your pasteles. If you want to do spicy pasteles, you should get a different color twine so that you know that you have spicy pasteles, right? So what I usually do is I buy red hilo, and that tells me that they're spicy pasteles, versus white hilo or string, which tells me it's regular pasteles. Okay, so yeah. Oh, that hurt. Okay, normally I just get a small bottle of these rocoto peppers. This is like a mix of peppers. This is how I make my pasteles spicy. I just cut these and I add a strip of them to the pasteles when I'm assembling them. They're hot. But if you don't like spicy pasteles, you don't have to buy these. But if you do, buy them. I'm going to teach you how to prepare your banana leaves for wrapping your pasteles. You don't have to wrap your pasteles in banana leaves like I do. I do it because it adds flavor to the pasteles, and I prefer to use fresh banana leaves. I feel like it connects me to the ancestors somehow. But if you don't care about being connected to the ancestors, you can always buy frozen plátano leaves or hojas de plátano. And it's the same thing as using fresh. You're still going to have to clean it. You're going to have to thaw it and cut it, but still works. So I'm in a different store. This is my local H-E-B store. I'm buying the fresh banana leaves that I was telling you about before. Now, normally, if I'm not making a big batch of pasteles, I'll take them out of this bag that they pack them in, because this is like, I want to say 5 or 6 whole banana leaves, and that's a lot of banana leaves. You could use it because you can always freeze it. I'm going to buy this whole pack, but you're more than free. Well, you should be more than free in your grocery store to take what you need. So if you're going to make a small batch of pasteles, you can take it out of the packaging, grab it from the center and pull it out, and then you'll have just 2 or 3 banana leaves. 2 or 3 banana leaves is enough to wrap 1.5 dozen pasteles. But I'm going to take this whole thing because I use it to make alcapurrias and to wrap my pasteles. And I also use it to cover my arroz con gandules when I'm making it because it gives it a different flavor. So this, I'm taking this whole thing. And look at this price. That's not a bad price for these. I mean, it is by the pound though, so. Now you're equipped. You have everything that you need to begin your pasteles saga. So let me answer some frequently asked questions about pasteles and shopping for pasteles. Pasteles are not tamales. Again, I try to stay away from quantifying our recipes by using somebody else's recipes. I understand that it is a great way to get you into the thought process of what you're expecting, but these are 2 different recipes. Tamales are made with corn masa, whereas our pasteles are made with masa de root vegetables or vianda or yuca. So they have a different flavor altogether. Most of the time we don't use lard in our masa. Masa for tamales does include lard. We do have a meat filling, which is similar to tamales, or hallacas, are another kind of similar recipe. The main thing that they have in common is that the people that make them speak Spanish and that they're mainly made during the holidays. But they're not the same thing, no. And tamales are also wrapped in corn husks, where we mainly wrap ours in banana leaves or just in parchment paper. So no, they're not the same thing. Pasteles are typically served during the holidays. So people usually start making them at the beginning of November all through 3 Kings Day, which is also called Epiphany. It's January 6th. That is our holiday season. So we party long and hard for the holidays. So pasteles are usually prepared en masse or in bulk so that we have enough to run us through the holiday season. That's why we usually get together as a family and we have a pasteles making party where we make a ton and everybody takes theirs, and we have some in the freezer. Yeah. When shopping for your vianda, especially for your pasteles, don't shop too far ahead of when you plan to make the masa. If you shop too far ahead, your bananas will ripen, because that's what they do. Even though they're ungassed bananas, they're eventually going to ripen. And you don't want to risk losing your bananas because you can't use them. So if you plan to make your masa within the 1 or 2 days of buying the bananas, that's great. If you don't think you're going to have the time, I would hold off on buying the bananas and the vianda until you will have time. Or go ahead and make your masa and then freeze it. Freezing the masa is perfect. It works well. You can also store it in the refrigerator, but we'll talk about that in the masa episode. So, most of these ingredients you can find in Hispanic markets or Latin markets. Surprisingly enough, you can also find them in Asian or African markets, because especially with African markets, hello, those are our roots too. So you can find a lot of these ingredients in African markets. But the Asian market also uses, Asians also use banana leaves. They also use, cassava in some recipes. They use green bananas. I've even found culantro for the sofrito in these recipes. I didn't talk about sofrito in the shopping section of this episode, because I have a video for sofrito that is dedicated to how to shop for sofrito and how to make it. So check out that video. I'll link it up below. I'll link it here, right there, so that you can check out how to shop for your sofrito and how to make it. That's another one of those situations where you can make your sofrito far in advance, freeze it, and have it ready for your pasteles session. I want to thank Las Americas Latin Market, located at 6623 San Pedro Avenue in San Antonio, Texas. They are my go-to market for anything that I need to make my pasteles and anything that I need to make my Puerto Rican food, to be quite honest. They're amazing people. The staff there is very helpful, and you will find most everything that you need to make this recipe. Hopefully you can find a local place in your city where you can grab all your ingredients, because we need to begin episode 2, which is going to be how to make achote oil. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like this video and also subscribe to my channel. Sign up for notifications so that you can get notified every time I post a new video, because there's going to be a bunch of episodes on how to make pasteles, and I don't want you to miss any of them. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on episode 2.